Hey guys, tonight we begin with a place where people came to relax, and maybe regret it later. It's ancient Rome, somewhere between toga parties and suspiciously steamy water. The world is crowded, hot, and slightly unsanitary. Before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from, and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft, steady hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Congratulations, you've just stepped into a bathhouse with more secrets than water. You wake to the sound of water, not the clean kind, like a modern spa with cucumber slices floating around. No, this is water that gurgles, sloshes, and whispers its way through lead pipes that creak like old bones. It's a place where steam rises thick as fog, where skin gleams with oil, and where everyone from senators to beggars comes together for one sacred ritual: bathing. Of course, the word bathing is generous. You're not here to rinse off with a quick splash and a shower gel that promises ocean breeze. You're here for hours of sweating, scraping, gossiping, arguing, and, if you're unlucky, catching something that will leave you scratching for weeks. The air is hot before you've even stepped inside. It presses on your chest like a wool blanket forgotten in summer. Around you, the streets are alive. Vendors shouting about figs and olives, children darting barefoot between carts, the scent of fresh bread tangled with something less pleasant. Rome always smells like Rome. But just ahead, beyond the columns and the looming arch, lies the therma, the baths, the empire's proudest invention after roads, and maybe questionable conquest. You hesitate at the entrance, not because you don't want to go in, but because you're trying not to stare. A procession of Romans passes by, most wrapped in loose tunics, some already stripped down, their skin slicked with oil. There is nothing subtle about it. Imagine your local gym. Now multiply the nakedness, remove personal space, and throw in the political elite. You're not just about to wash, you're about to enter the social bloodstream of Rome. The door is carved wood, heavy and groaning as slaves push it open. A rush of steam rolls out, smelling faintly of olive oil, sweat, and whatever herbs someone decided to burn to keep the gods happy. You step inside and immediately the sound changes. Outside, the city roared. Inside it hums. The echo of voices bounces off marble walls. Men laugh, cough, and mutter in every corner. Bronze basins clank. Sandals slap wet stone, and beneath it all is the steady drip, drip, drip of water, eternal as the empire itself. And here's the part the travel brochures forget. It's crowded. Not just busy, but shoulder to shoulder, sticky, damp, and uncomfortably intimate. You shuffle past a man whose beard glistens with oil, past another who looks like he's been asleep on the floor for hours, and you're immediately aware that this is no private ritual. It's communal, messy, and oddly democratic. Senators soak beside soldiers, freedmen beside merchants. Sure, there are separate times and rules depending on your gender and status, but in this moment, you're just another body in the steam. A slave boy approaches, holding a small jar of strigils, curved bronze scrapers that look like torture devices invented by someone who hated smooth skin. He offers you one, and you realize the first step of the bath isn't really bathing at all. You're supposed to rub yourself down with oil, and then scrape it all off, along with the dirt, sweat, and a fine layer of dignity. The Romans thought this was hygienic. You might call it exfoliation. Except instead of a spa attendant whispering about your aura, it's a half-naked teenager scraping grime into a communal bucket. Lovely. You smear oil across your arms, trying not to think about who touched the jar before you, and drag the strigil down your skin. The sensation is half itchy, half painful, like scratching a mosquito bite with a butter knife. Around you, others are doing the same, their strigils hissing against skin, scraping out streaks of brown that glisten in the lamplight. You want to gag, but no one else seems bothered. In fact, some look downright proud, comparing the amount of filth their bodies produced. Hygiene is relative after all. And while you're busy scraping yourself raw, you realize that no one's paying attention to you. Because the real show is happening in conversation. The baths are where Rome talks. Over there, a senator whispers about grain shortages. Over here, Two men argue about which gladiator will survive the next arena bloodbath. Somewhere in the steam, a merchant brags about his new shipment of silk, while another man tries to sell a jar of dubious medicine that smells like boiled goat. Every deal, every plot, every rumor passes through these walls eventually. Forget the Senate. The true politics of Rome often begin in the bathhouse. But of course, there's a darker undercurrent too. You see it when you glance at the slave sweeping the floor. His hands are cracked and bleeding from endless work. You see it in the way one man eyes another, calculating debts unpaid. And you hear it in the cough, wet, rattling, close by. The kind of cough that makes you step back just a little, though you can't escape. In a room this crowded, one cough can travel farther than a legion. The heat intensifies as you move deeper. The frigidarium, the cold pool, is behind you now, a place for the bravest or most masochistic to plunge into icy water. Ahead, the caldarium waits. The hot chamber, the Roman sauna. The walls sweat with condensation, torches flicker in the haze, and the marble floor burns your feet if you stand still too long. You can barely see, the steam is so thick, and you stumble forward like a ghost among ghosts. Inside, men recline on stone benches, their bodies shining in the glow. Some talk philosophy, quoting lines of Cicero as if the heat helps their brains. Others sit in silence, eyes half closed, their faces red as boiled lobsters. You lower yourself onto a bench, feeling the stone scorch your skin, and try to breathe through the soup, thick air. Somewhere nearby, a man sings softly, his voice cracked but haunting, while another splashes water onto the floor to create more steam. And here, in this suffocating chamber, you begin to realize the truth. The baths aren't just about cleanliness. They're about control. Control of the body, control of the mind, control of the crowd. Rome runs on routine, and the bathhouse is the heartbeat, steady, hot, unrelenting. If you want to rise in society, you come here. If you want to hear rumors, you come here. If you want to be seen, to remind others that you exist, you come here. To skip the baths is to erase yourself from Rome. Of course, you might erase yourself anyway. Quite literally. Look around. See that man leaning against the wall, too pale, his lips cracked. He probably has a fever. That boy scratching his arms raw, likely lice or worse. That wealthy patron boasting loudly about his latest conquest. He doesn't notice the rash spreading across his back. And here's the cruel twist: the hotter the room, the more germs thrive. The baths are beautiful, yes. They are also a petri dish the size of a palace. You catch another cough. It rattles, desperate. The singer stops. For a moment the room feels smaller, tighter. Your skin prickles, and not just from heat. Something in the steam is heavier than it should be. Disease floats invisible, carried by breath, by touch, by water that laps and recycles. Rome prides itself on its aqueducts, its engineering marvels. But water carries as much death as life. And yet, no one leaves. They laugh, they scrape, they plunge. Because the baths are Rome. To stay away is unthinkable. To bathe is to belong, no matter the risk. And so, you lean back against the burning stone, listening to the whispers in the steam, wondering what invisible thing has already settled in your lungs. But don't worry. We're only just beginning. You shift on the bench, your skin sticking to the marble like bread dough to a counter. A trickle of sweat runs down your temple, burning your eye until you blink it away. The man beside you sighs, long and heavy, like an ox releasing steam. His belly heaves in and out, his chest hair curling with damp. He catches you looking and smiles, though it feels less friendly and more like a dare welcome to Rome, stranger. Good luck lasting the hour. The longer you sit, the more you begin to notice the layers of sound. Not just laughter and coughs, but whispers carried through steam. A man behind you mutters about a neighbor's wife. Another hisses to a companion about a debt that will never be repaid. One voice, sharp and low, speaks the name of the emperor, and you can't help but lean in. But the words vanish, swallowed by a burst of laughter from across the room. That's how it works here. Secrets are currency, traded as easily as oil jars and sandals. A boy rushes past carrying a bronze jug. He's no older than 12, his arms trembling from the weight. He slips on the wet floor and nearly falls, the water sloshing out in a shining arc before him. The men laugh, one clapping his shoulder as if the near disaster was entertainment. The boy bows, mutters an apology, and scurries off. his bare feet slapping like fish against stone. You wonder how many hours he's been running back and forth. How many more before someone lets him sleep? You're jolted from the thought by a hand on your shoulder. A heavy hand, damp and rough. You turn to see a man with a face like carved sandstone. Deep lines. Eyes sunken, beard thick with oil. He leans in close, breath hot against your ear. "Careful, stranger," he says. "Walls in here have ears." Then he's gone, melting into the haze, leaving you to wonder what, exactly, he thought you were listening to. The paranoia is contagious, maybe more than the cuffs. In Rome, power and betrayal always travel together, and the baths are no exception. But the heat is too much. Your lungs beg for air, your head spins, and your skin feels cooked. You stagger to your feet, ignoring the questioning looks, and make your way toward the door. The sudden rush of cooler air is a mercy, though not by much. Even outside the caldarium, the baths are warm, damp, and alive with noise. You pass into the tepidarium, the warm chamber, and the change is immediate. The heat here is gentler, almost pleasant, like sliding into a late spring afternoon. Men recline on marble benches, some playing dice, others sharing figs and bread. The air smells sweeter, touched with mint leaves tossed into the basins, but it does little to hide the undertone of sweat and old oil. A group of young men cluster in a corner, laughing too loudly. Their hair is oiled to perfection, their gestures dramatic. They glance around constantly, checking who's watching. You realize with a grin, they're here less for bathing and more for display. The Roman baths aren't just hygienic, they're a catwalk, a stage, a place to be noticed. Who needs Instagram when you have half of Rome's population staring at your biceps in the steam? But then, as you lower yourself onto a bench, a shadow passes across your vision. A man stumbles into the room, clutching his stomach. His skin is grey, slick with sweat that doesn't shine but dulls. He drops to his knees, gagging. For a moment, no one moves. Then a slave rushes forward, trying to pull him up, but the man swats him away and collapses onto the floor. The room goes still. You hear the dice hit marble, forgotten mid-game. A woman's laughter, sharp, almost cruel, cuts off like a knife. The man coughs, a wet, gurgling sound, and spits onto the floor. You look down and see it, blood, thin and watery, spreading across the cracks in the stone. No one speaks, they just watch. And slowly, one by one, they turn away, not in horror, in denial. Rome doesn't like to look at weakness. The slaves drag the man out, leaving a smear behind, and conversation resumes, awkward at first, then louder, almost forced. It's as if by talking louder, they can drown out what just happened. You sit frozen, the image burning into your mind. That man isn't the first, and he won't be the last. The baths are not just a sanctuary. They're a crucible, where disease thrives as easily as gossip. You think of the coughing in the caldarium, the pale faces, the scraping strigils passing from body to body. You think of the water, constantly reused, a perfect breeding ground, and yet, despite it all, no one stays away. Not the senators, not the merchants, not even the slaves who clean the mess. Rome cannot function without its baths. The empire could lose a battle and recover. It could lose a province and still survive. But take away the baths. The rhythm of life would collapse. You lean back, watching the dice players resume their game, and you realize something: the baths aren't simply a place to wash. They are Rome in miniature. Glory and rot, beauty and filth, laughter and fear, all pressed together in the heat until no one can tell them apart. The thought lingers as you rise again, moving toward the palestra, the exercise yard. The doorway opens onto a wide courtyard, sunlight spilling across sand. Men wrestle, their bodies slick and shining, while others throw discus or practice with wooden swords. The air smells different here. Fresh, sharp with sweat, touched by grass and dust. You gulp it in, grateful after the suffocating chambers. But even here the shadows creep in. You notice the bruises on the wrestler's ribs, the way one clutches his arm as if it's broken. Exercise in Rome isn't health for its own sake. It's performance, a show of strength. And like everything else, it can be brutal. A man collapses in the sand, blood running from his nose. His opponent raises his arms in triumph, cheered on by a small crowd. The loser groans, ignored. No one rushes to help. Here, as in the arena, weakness is just another spectacle. You step back, unsettled. The sun feels too bright now, the laughter too sharp. the baths are supposed to cleanse. But the longer you stay, the more you feel the dirt clinging to you. Not on your skin. Inside, where the whispers have already settled. A bell clangs in the distance, marking the hour. The wrestlers pause, the dice scatter, the voices shift. Time moves differently here, stretched thin by steam and sweat. You glance back toward the caldarium, where the air still glows with heat, and wonder how many more have fallen there today. You take a deep breath, the kind that tastes of dust and sunlight, and realize something important: you're not just a visitor anymore. The baths are inside you now, in your lungs, your clothes, your very thoughts. You carry them with you, like a shadow that won't wash away. And somewhere behind you, in the steam, another cough echoes. The sun slips lower as you linger in the palustra, its last rays slanting across marble columns and turning sweat into molten gold. The wrestlers have thinned out, some limping away, others still boasting to whoever will listen. A slave sweeps the sand with a reed broom, erasing footprints as though erasing the struggles that made them. Rome is good at that. Covering the bruises, polishing the marble, pretending the dirt never existed. You're drawn back inside, pulled by the hum like a moth to firelight. The air grows warmer again, heavier, clinging to your skin. Lamps flicker in the alcoves now, the flames trembling in the draught of open doorways. This is the quieter hour, when the baths begin to shift from daytime bustle to evening ritual. But don't mistake quiet for safety. Night pulls out secrets that daylight politely ignores. The tepidarium is half empty when you return. The dice players have gone, leaving only the faint smell of smoke and wine. A man reclines against the wall, his head tilted back, lips moving in silent prayer. Beside him, another man snores softly, his chest rising and falling in the lamplight. You notice how their shadows stretch across the marble, tall, wavering, distorted, like ghosts pressed against the stone. You move deeper, toward the caldarium again. The door yawns open, exhaling steam thick as breath. For a moment, you hesitate. The memory of that coughing lingers in your chest, like smoke that won't leave. But curiosity pulls you forward. Or maybe it's the strange gravity of Rome itself. This city thrives on spectacle, on testing the edges of comfort. If you turn away now, you'll miss the heart of it. Inside, the chamber is dimmer than before. The torches burn low, their light smudged by the haze. The men who remain are quieter, their voices hushed, their movements slower. Some soak in silence, eyes closed, their skin glistening like bronze statues brought to life. Others huddle in corners, heads bent together, their whispers almost swallowed by the dripping walls. You lower yourself onto a bench again, the stone still hot enough to sting. Your body protests, but you force yourself to stay. The air smells stronger now, not just oil and sweat, but something sharper, metallic. You glance toward the corner, where a man wipes his mouth with the back of his hand. For an instant, you swear you see red glisten on his palm, before he shoves it into the water. The ripples spread out, and no one comments. Perhaps they didn't see, or perhaps they've trained themselves not to. The man beside you leans over suddenly, his voice rough. Do you know why the baths are never empty? His eyes shine strangely in the light, fever, bright. Because Rome cannot bear silence. Silence means something is wrong. So we fill the air with heat and chatter, so no one notices the sickness crawling under our skin. He chuckles, the sound more like a cough, then stands and disappears into the steam. You sit frozen, the words hanging between the drips and the flickering flames. Was he mad, or simply honest? In Rome, it's often the same thing. Your head swims. The air is too thick, the heat clawing at your lungs. You rise, unsteady, and stumble toward the exit. The tepidarium's cooler air greets you like a half-forgotten friend, though it still presses heavy on your shoulders. You gulp it in, rubbing your face with your hands, trying to shake the feeling of being boiled alive. But the baths aren't finished with you yet. A shout rings out from the frigidarium, the cold pool. You follow the sound, your sandals slapping wet stone, until you reach the chamber. Here the air bites sharp, almost shocking after the suffocating heat. The pool glitters in the lamplight, dark and still as obsidian. A few men hover near the edge, their arms wrapped around themselves, psyching up for the plunge. One leaps suddenly, his body arsing before the splash shatters the silence. He surfaces with a gasp, his skin white and trembling, his eyes wide, as if he's seen the underworld itself. The others cheer, laughing as though daring each other to follow. It looks refreshing, even pure. But the truth seeps through when you notice the debris floating on the surface. Oil dirt, a few stray hairs. And deeper down, who knows what the water holds? You kneel, running a finger through the icy pool. It's cold enough to sting, but not clean enough to trust. Rome recycles everything, including its water. What leaves one chamber often flows into another, carrying whatever clings to it. You pull your hand back quickly, rubbing it on your tunic, though the smell lingers. A man beside you chuckles, watching. First time. His smile is broad, but his teeth are blackened, some missing altogether. Don't worry. After a few visits, you won't even notice the taste. He claps your shoulder, then dives in, the water swallowing him whole. You step back, heart pounding. Around you, the laughter grows louder, the splashes wilder, until the chamber feels less like a bath and more like a baptism into madness. You can almost believe the water itself is alive, hungry, waiting. The lamps flicker, shadows darting across the walls, and for a heartbeat you swear you see something move beneath the surface. Something pale, shapeless, rising. But when you blink, it's gone, replaced by the ripples of another plunge. Perhaps it was nothing, or perhaps the baths are showing you a truth most Romans refuse to see. The hour grows late. You return to the apoditorium, the changing room, where rows of niches in the wall hold sandals, tunics, and cloaks. Slaves scurry between them, fetching garments, rubbing down patrons, sweeping the floors. The room smells of wet fabric and smoke from nearby braziers. You find your own cloak, still damp from the steam, and wrap it around your shoulders. Your skin feels raw, scraped thin by the strigil, baked by the heat, chilled by the plunge. You should feel clean. Instead, you feel marked, as though the baths have branded you. And maybe they have. Rome is not gentle with its children. It takes, it shapes, it burns. The baths are only a reflection, a mirror fogged with steam, hiding rot beneath marble. As you step toward the exit, you hear another cough behind you. Deep, wet, final. You don't turn around. Some things are better left unseen. The heavy wooden door creaks open, and the night air rushes in, cool and sharp. The city outside is alive with voices, torches, the distant call of merchants packing their stalls. Rome never sleeps, not really. But as you step back onto the street, you carry a new weight. You've been inside the heart of it, the lungs, the very skin. And you know now, the baths are not just water and steam, they are a reminder. That nothing in Rome is ever as clean as it looks. The cool night air kisses your face as you leave, but your feet don't carry you far. Something tugs at you, a curiosity sharp enough to outweigh the ache in your bones. Rome's streets are noisy, alive with clattering carts, and the calls of vendors packing away their wares, yet the baths behind you still hum, faintly, like an echo you can't shake. You pause under an archway, cloak pulled tight, and glance back. The torchlight flickers through the high windows, casting orange ribbons against the stone. You realize with a start that the baths do not sleep when the sun goes down. They breathe on, quieter, hidden. You hadn't thought to ask, what happens after the crowds leave? The question lingers, tempting. And before you can talk yourself out of it, you slip back inside. The apoditorium, the changing hall, is almost deserted now. A single slave boy dozes against the wall, his head nodding forward with every breath. The niches gape empty, their tunics and cloaks claimed hours earlier. The lamps burn low, shadows pooling like spilled ink across the marble floor. You move softly, each step echoing in the hollow quiet. Without the press of bodies, the place feels different, vast, cavernous, almost holy. And yet the air still smells of oil and sweat, clinging stubbornly to the stone, as if Rome itself refuses to let go of the day's dirt. Through the doorway, the tepidarium waits. The pools shimmer in the dim light, surfaces broken only by the occasional ripple. Someone is still here. You hear them before you see them, a whisper soft, lilting, almost like song. You creep closer, pressing your shoulder to the wall, and peer around. A man kneels at the water's edge, his back to you. His cloak is thrown aside, his body bent low, his lips moving quickly. He dips his hand into the pool, lifts it dripping, then lets the water fall again with a slap. You strain to hear, and a word catches mains. Spirits of the dead. You watch, transfixed, as he repeats the gesture, whispering each time, his voice trembling between devotion and fear. The This is no casual prayer to Jupiter or Mars. This is older, darker, the kind of ritual that survives in corners and shadows. He is not here to cleanse his body. He is here to bargain with ghosts. The hairs rise on your arms. You step back carefully, your sandals silent against the stone. Rome's marble walls may shine, but they hold secrets as old as the hills, and not all are meant for wandering strangers. You slip away, deeper into the baths. The caldarium still breathes heat, though its benches are empty now. The steam swirls lazily, filling the chamber with shifting shapes. For a moment, one looks like a woman, her hair trailing, her eyes hollow. But then it melts back into mist. You shake your head, though the image clings. Perhaps the man in the tepidarium isn't so strange after all. The frigidarium is worse. The pool gleams like black glass in the torchlight, its surface utterly still. You step closer, your reflection bending and rippling, until you almost expect another face to appear beside yours. Something brushes the water. A rat, maybe, and you flinch, your heart stuttering. But the surface smooths again, calm, indifferent. And then a sound. Not water this time, but voices. Distant, muffled, from deeper still. You follow, guided by instinct more than courage, until the walls narrow and the lamps grow sparser. Here the marble gives way to rougher stone, the polish fading. You've stumbled into the service corridors, the skeleton of the baths, where slaves carry water, wood, and waste unseen by the wealthy patrons above. The heat returns in waves, not from braziers now but from below. You realize you're standing above the hypocaust, the underfloor furnace that keeps the caldarium blazing. The air smells of smoke and ash, heavy enough to choke. Through a gap, you glimpse fire glowing red in the darkness, and shadows moving. Slaves feeding the flames, their faces slick with sweat, their bodies bent like beasts of burden. They do not see you, or if they do, they pretend not to. Their world is not meant to meet yours. They labor in silence, save for the occasional grunt or cough, their skin shining like bronze in the firelight. You realize with a pang that Rome's luxury rests entirely on their suffering. Every moment of relaxation above, every boast, every laugh, is bought by this furnace below. You step back, unsettled, and nearly trip on a shape in the shadows. A man lies slumped against the wall, half hidden. At first you think he's asleep, but the stillness is too deep. His skin is grey, his chest unmoving. A slave, perhaps, who collapsed from the heat and never rose again. You cover your mouth, the iron taste of smoke thick on your tongue, and hurry away. The voices you heard earlier draw you onward, toward a door half ajar. You push it gently, the hinges groaning, and peer inside. The room beyond is small, low-ceilinged, lit by a single oil lamp. 3 men sit cross-legged on the floor, their heads bent together. A 4th stands watch near the door, though he does not notice you yet. Their words drift toward you, sharp, urgent. They speak of shipments, of debts, of guards who can be bribed. And then a name surfaces, Domitian, the emperor, the man who rules Rome with eyes everywhere. Your breath catches. These men are not whispering gossip. They are plotting. One of them laughs, though the sound is bitter. Even the emperor must bathe, he says. And when he does, we will be ready. You freeze, your hand still on the door. The baths are not just a place of sweat and sickness. They are a stage for politics, betrayal, assassination. No marble wall is thick enough to block ambition. The guard shifts, his eyes flicking toward the door. You jerk back, your heart slamming. Did he see you? You don't wait to find out. You hurry down the corridor, sandals slapping, until the voices fade. At last, you emerge back into the appetiterium. The slave boy is gone, the lamps nearly burned out. The great wooden doors loom ahead, heavy with iron. You push them open, and night spills in. Cool, dark, alive with the hum of Rome. You step out quickly, the door thudding shut behind you, and suck in the air as though you've been drowning. The street smells of smoke, bread and horse dung, and you've never been so grateful for it. But even as you walk away, cloak wrapped tight, the baths cling to you. The steam, the whispers, the shadows in the water. And one question, heavy as lead, what else have these walls heard? You don't sleep well that night. Every time you close your eyes, you see the shimmer of water, the curve of steam forming faces, the man muttering to spirits with wet hands, dripping red in the torchlight. Rome outside your window feels restless too, carts rattling over cobblestones long past midnight, dogs barking at shadows, whispers traveling faster than the wind. But more than anything, you cannot shake the feeling that the baths are not done with you. You'd like to imagine you simply stumbled into something by accident, but no, it felt different. Almost as though the walls themselves chose to show you their secrets. And secrets in Rome are rarely harmless. At dawn, you wake to a sound. Distant, muffled, but sharp enough to cut through your fog. A horn, then another, then voices shouting down the street. You rise, heart thumping, and push open the shutters. There, beneath the first grey light of morning, a crowd is already gathering. Soldiers push through the mass, their shields glinting. And in the center, dragged like a sack of grain, is a man you recognize. It's the Whisperer from the tepidarium, and his eyes, wild and wide, lock directly on yours. You don't even realize your breath has caught in your chest, until the horn blares again and rattles the shutters in your hands. The crowd surges forward, their sandals slapping the stones, voices mixing into a ragged chorus of curiosity, anger, and something else. Fear, perhaps. But you can't tell if it belongs to them or to you. Rome always sounds like a storm, but this is different. This feels personal. And then there's him. The man from the tepidarium, the one whose whispers clung to the walls like smoke. His tunic is torn, one shoulder bare. His hair plastered with sweat as soldiers shove him forward. His feet drag, stumbling, but his eyes, they're awake. Wide, unblinking, fixed on you through the press of humanity. It would be easier if he looked broken. Easier if his gaze slid away. But no. He stares directly up at your window, as though you are the only thing in Rome worth noticing. And there, in those frantic eyes, you recognize something terribly inconvenient recognition. Oh no. You mutter, though of course no one in the street hears you. And if they did, they wouldn't care. Rome doesn't pause for private tragedies. The soldier leading the parade barks an order, his bronze helmet flashing, and the crowd ripples like water. People push forward for a better view. Someone hurls a piece of bread that bounces off the prisoner's chest. Someone else laughs. Someone else spits. And the man never blinks, never looks away. You shut the shutters faster than you mean to, wood clapping like the heartbeat you're trying to smother. Leaning against the frame, you force yourself to breathe slowly, deeply, like you're back in the caldarium, drowning in mist but pretending you're in control. Okay. You whisper to yourself. Okay. He doesn't know me. Not really. Just a glance in a steamy room, nothing more. Right? But you don't believe yourself. Because you saw the way he had spoken into the empty air. Not to a god, not to a shadow. To someone. And now he's being dragged through the streets at dawn, and out of every window, out of every face staring down at him. His eyes found yours. Which raises the kind of question you really don't want to ask in Rome. What exactly did you get yourself involved in? The noise outside fades by degrees, like thunder moving off across the hills. You risk opening the shutters again. The crowd has moved deeper into the city, toward the Forum perhaps, where judgment always waits like an open mouth. All that remains are scraps in the street, crumbs of bread, spatters of something darker that you don't lean far enough out to identify. For a moment, the world is quiet. But Rome doesn't tolerate silence for long. A rooster crows from somewhere across the street. A cart creaks by, loaded with amphora. Children chase each other barefoot down the stones, their laughter skipping like pebbles over water. It's morning again. The city resumes its rhythm, as if the horn and the prisoner and those wild, staring eyes were just a wrinkle in the sheet of reality that can be smoothed away. And yet, you dress quickly, trying to shake the feeling that your tunic itself carries the damp of the baths, the whisper of torchlight in stone. You tie the belt tighter than usual. It feels like armor, though you know it's not. When you step into the street, the air is cool, washed with the faint smell of fish and garlic from the market already bustling near the Tiber. Rome never truly sleeps. It just naps with one eye open. Vendors shout prices with the same energy soldiers shout orders. A pair of women gossip over figs. Somewhere, a smith hammers out a rhythm, as if the city needs its own background percussion. You blend into the crowd, or at least you try. That's the trick, isn't it? Rome is the kind of place where you're always noticed, even if only as part of the scenery. You pass a man scratching his name into a wall with charcoal. Some crude joke about Caesar and goats. You pass a beggar with one leg stretched out, singing a hymn too sweet for his cracked voice. You pass a baker whose stall smells so heavenly, you nearly forget about your impending existential dread. Nearly, because at every corner, at every gathering not of citizens, the same whispers float to your ears. Did you see him? Dragged like a thief? No, worse than a thief. They said he was caught praying in the baths. Praying, or summoning. The words stick like burrs in your mind. Summoning. In a bathhouse. You don't even want to imagine what kind of audience one hopes to summon while surrounded by half-naked senators and overcooked merchants. You duck into the forum, where the marble columns gleam in the sun, and the square hums with business as usual. Lawyers argue, merchants haggle. Orators shout themselves hoarse to audiences of pigeons and passers-by. But over it all hangs a buzz, like bees angry in their hive. Everyone has heard about the man from the baths. It doesn't take long before you find the crowd again. They've clustered near the basilica, where justice is dispensed with the efficiency of a cleaver. The man stands in the center, his arms bound, his tunic dirtier than before. Soldiers flank him, their expressions carved from stone. A magistrate, robes immaculate, listens as a priest points accusingly with one hand while clutching a scroll in the other. You edge closer, weaving between taller Romans, pretending you belong. Pretending you aren't the foreign time, traveller who may or may not have been noticed in the tepidarium. The air is thick with sweat and heat, and the oily smoke of torches left smouldering from last night. Unnatural rites. The priest is saying, voice rising. Desecration of the sacred waters. A corruption among us, carried on the breath of the gods themselves. The crowd gasps in the right places, like they've rehearsed. Someone throws another scrap of food. The prisoner flinches, but he does not speak. He does not resist. His eyes, though, they scan the crowd. Searching, hunting, you know before it happens. Yes, there it is. His gaze finds you again. Pinned in place by nothing but two wet, fevered eyes, you feel your knees weaken, your pulse thunder. Around you, the crowd shouts. The magistrate clears his throat. The priest spreads his arms to the heavens. But all you feel is the weight of recognition pressing down like a hand on your shoulder. You try to look away. You fail. And then, impossibly, he smiles. Not wide. Not mad. Just a thin, knowing curl of the lips, as though he's finally seen the thing he's been waiting for all along. And you? Poor you, standing in a square that smells of sweat and olive oil, have no idea whether that makes you chosen or condemned. The magistrate clears his throat again, louder this time, as if even he senses the crowd's attention, slipping from his authority to that unsettling line of sight between you and the accused. His voice carries with the clipped sharpness of someone used to being obeyed. Marcus Tullius Varro, he intones, and you realize with a small shock that the man has a name, somehow that makes him more dangerous. Names are anchors. Names turn shadows into people. You stand accused of impiety, of corrupting the sacred waters of the Balnea, and of introducing foul rituals into the city of Rome. The crowd erupts again, a tangle of voices competing to sound more outraged than the rest. Someone shouts for his execution. Someone else demands he be thrown into the Tiber. And a third voice, young, high-pitched, maybe a boy perched on his father's shoulders, yells simply, "Burn him!" Rome is not subtle when it comes to punishment. You swallow, wishing you could melt into the crowd. But there's no melting here. Rome is marble and brick and hard edges. Rome notices. The priest lifts his scroll dramatically. Though you can tell from the way he squints that he's probably forgotten half the charges written there. Witnesses saw him whispering in the steam. The priest proclaims, calling on powers not sanctioned by Jupiter or Mars, nor any god on the Capitoline Hill. The very water recoiled at his words. Now that's a good line. You almost applaud. The crowd certainly does, hands clapping, voices rising. It doesn't matter if it's true. Rome thrives on spectacle, not fact. The magistrate raises a hand, and slowly, grudgingly, the noise ebbs. His gaze sharpens on Varro, who hasn't stopped smiling that infuriating, faint smile. Do you deny these charges? For a long, unbearable moment, Varro says nothing. He just stares out over the crowd, his eyes skimming faces, pausing, moving on. When they find yours again, you feel your stomach plunge like a stone tossed into the cloaca maxima. And then he speaks. I deny nothing. The words ripple outward, soft but strong enough to bend the air. You can feel the shift in the crowd, the unease creeping into their voices. They wanted denial. They wanted pleading, excuses, something to bat away with righteous indignation. Instead, he has handed them certainty, and certainty in Rome is more terrifying than doubt. The magistrate's jaw tightens. So you admit to sacrilege. Varro tilts his head, a gesture that is almost playful. Sacrilege is a Roman word. What I did was older than Rome. The crowd doesn't like that. Rome hates being reminded it isn't eternal, that once it was just huts on a hill, and someone else's gods were worshipped under the same sky. A murmur runs through the people, a sour undercurrent of fear disguised as fury. The priest seizes on it, his scroll shaking as he points again. You see, he admits his crime. A corrupter of waters, a summoner of spirits not welcome in Rome. He would infect us all if we let him live. And the crowd, relieved to be told what to feel, roars its agreement. You, on the other hand, can't stop your mind from circling that single phrase older than Rome. The baths had felt eternal, like stone and steam were older than your body, older than time. What had Varro been whispering in there? What had he been calling to, and why in all the tepid, slippery pools in the empire did his eyes keep finding yours? The magistrate raises his arm for silence once more. This city does not tolerate corruption. The baths are sacred, a gift to the people of Rome. They will not be defiled by foreign mutterings and nameless spirits. His gaze lingers on Varro with something colder than justice, something personal. You will be put to questioning, and then to judgment. Questioning. A word that sounds harmless until you remember what Roman questioning really means. Ropes, racks. Things done to joints that joints were never designed for. The soldier sees Varro, dragging him toward the basilica's steps. The crowd parts, some jeering, some silent, all hungry to see what happens next. And then, at the last possible second, he twists his head back. The smile widens. His lips form words without sound. You can read them anyway. You were there. It's not a threat, not exactly. It's worse. It's an acknowledgement. A connection sealed in steam and stone, and now hammered into the open air of the forum. You stumble back, bumping into a man whose toga cost more than your entire existence. He curses at you in fluent, inventive Latin. You mutter an apology and slip away, heart hammering like a legionary's drum. The streets blur as you push through them, desperate to put distance between yourself and the basilica, but Rome has a way of shrinking when you need it big. Every corner feels familiar, every alley feels like it's leaning closer, listening. The air itself seems thicker, charged, as though the city knows. Finally you duck into a narrow street lined with shops, cobblers, oil sellers, a fortune teller with a painted wooden sign of a hand. The fortune teller catches your eye, grins with too many teeth, and beckons. You ignore him. You've had enough prophecy for one day. Instead, you find yourself standing outside a tavern, its door open. The smell of cheap wine and roasted chickpeas spilling into the street. Inside, voices rise in laughter, oblivious, uncaring of trials and accusations. For a moment, you just stand there. Maybe you could go in, drink, laugh, let yourself forget. But you know the image would follow you, a man in chains, smiling through blood and dust, whispering to the water as if it answered. And worse, whispering to you. You stand frozen at the threshold of the tavern, half in shadow, half in the golden spill of lamplight. Rome has a way of making you feel like you're always on stage, whether you want to be or not. A drunk at one of the tables waves his cup, sloshing wine dangerously close to his neighbor's lap, and shouts something about bread and baths. The phrase gets a roar of agreement. There it is again, the baths. Even here, in the noisy belly of a tavern, it's all anyone wants to talk about. Bread and baths. Food for the body, steam for the soul. But tonight, thanks to one whispering lunatic, they've become something else entirely dangerous. You step inside, partly for cover. Partly because you need to hear what Romans say when the magistrates aren't listening. The smell hits you instantly. Sour wine, oil, smoke. Bodies packed tight enough that the walls sweat. A lyre twangs in the corner, hopelessly drowned out by laughter and arguments. You weave through the tables, ears straining. Told you, didn't I? Those pools aren't clean. Everyone swears they're sacred, but half the city pisses in them. Nah, it's the steam. Spirits love steam. Gets in your lungs, makes you think strange thoughts. My cousin's brother went mad after the caldarium. Started raving at a statue of Venus. Doesn't matter. They'll crush the bastard's bones until he admits he's a traitor. Then we can all go back. The water's fine if the city says it's fine. There's comfort in that last voice. The smug certainty of a man who has never once questioned the gods, the magistrates, or even the quality of his wine. You envy him for a moment. Ignorance is Rome's most expensive luxury. At a nearby table, two women share a bowl of lentils, their heads bent close. One's hair is elaborately curled, held with pins that gleam in the lamplight. The other wears hers loose, easier, younger. Do you think it's true? The younger asks. The elder snorts delicately. True enough for the crowd. That's all it takes. He's finished. You glance down at your own reflection in the wine jug someone abandoned on the counter. Finished. The word echoes uncomfortably. You weren't the one accused, yet somehow you feel tethered to Varro's fate. Maybe it's just the way his eyes pinned you in the forum. Maybe it's the way Rome itself seems to whisper when you walk its streets now, as if the city has placed a mark on your back. A hand claps your shoulder. You nearly jump out of your skin. New face. The tavern keeper says, grinning through a beard that could hide a small legion. You drink, stranger. You nod, because saying no in a Roman tavern is suspicious behavior, and the last thing you need is more suspicion. He sets a cup in front of you, the liquid more vinegar than wine. You take a sip anyway. It burns. Everything in Rome burns. From somewhere in the street outside, a group of boys runs past, chanting a rhyme you can just catch. Varro whispers, Varro lies, steam will eat his wicked eyes. Children make songs faster than poets in Rome. And crueler. You finish the cup quickly, coins clinking onto the counter, and step back into the night. The air feels cooler now, sharp with the smell of damp stone. Torches crackle in their iron brackets, painting the street in restless shadows. You move with the crowd, pulled along by Rome's endless tide. Past bakeries, their ovens still glowing with heat. Past a temple where a priest sprinkles water that smells faintly of sulfur. Past beggars whose hands reach like roots from the base of walls. And finally, inevitably, past another bathhouse. Not the grand one you entered earlier. This is smaller, neighborhood-sized, tucked into a row of shops. Its doorway yawns warm, steam curling lazily into the street like a beckoning finger. Inside you hear the splash of water, the scrape of strigils against skin, laughter echoing in tiled rooms. So ordinary, so harmless. Except now you know it isn't harmless. Now you've seen what happens when steam and whispers mix. You hover there, watching men disappear inside with casual ease, as if no trial had been shouted in the forum today, as if no man had been dragged off in chains. Rome forgets fast. Maybe that's why it thrives. A woman notices you lingering and smirks. First time, don't worry. The water won't bite. You force a smile. She sweeps past you, vanishing into the heat. You stay rooted, torn between curiosity and dread. To step inside again would be madness. But then, wasn't that what they said about Varro? A voice from the shadows makes you flinch. You saw him, didn't you? You turn. An old man sits against the wall, half hidden by darkness. His toga is stained, his eyes sharp. He doesn't move, doesn't blink. You were in the bath today, he says. It isn't a question. You felt it. You open your mouth, but no words come. The old man chuckles softly, shaking his head. Ah, you don't know what you've stepped into, traveler. The baths are not what they seem. They never were. Before you can ask, before you can demand what he means, a patrol of soldiers clatters down the street. The old man slips deeper into shadow, vanishing as if he were never there. The soldiers march past, their armor catching the torchlight. One glances at you, frowns slightly, then keeps going. When they're gone, you're left staring at the empty patch of wall where the old man had been. The words gnaw at you, burrowing deep. The baths are not what they seem, and you realize, with a chill that has nothing to do with the night air, that tomorrow will not be quieter than today. Tomorrow, Rome will boil. The next morning comes too quickly, though you're not sure you ever truly slept. Rome doesn't know how to sleep. Even in the darkest hours, the streets mutter, cartwheels creaking, dogs snarling, drunks spilling songs into alleyways. When dawn finally arrives, it feels less like the start of a new day And more like the city simply decided to turn up the light and continue its performance. You follow the current of the crowd toward the forum, because that's what everyone is doing. When Rome smells blood, it gathers like vultures. At first it's almost festive. Vendors set up stalls selling figs and bread, children chase each other through the legs of senators, and men argue about odds as if they were betting on chariot races. The air is already thick with heat, the kind that clings to skin and makes tempers short, and then you hear it. The clink of chains. The uneven shuffle of a man dragged forward. Varro, he looks worse than yesterday. His tunic is torn, one eye already swelling shut. Dried blood crusts the corner of his mouth. Yet still, somehow, he holds himself with a kind of stubborn dignity, like a man refusing to drown even while the tide is already over his head. The magistrates sit in their curved chairs, polished wood gleaming in the sun. Behind them, scribes scratch furiously at wax tablets, recording every word. A lictor stands ready with his fasces, a bundle of rods and an axe. Rome's reminder that law and violence are the same thing here. The questioning begins. A voice booms. You whispered against the baths, Varro. You claimed spirits rose from the steam. Who told you this lie? Varro lifts his head slowly. His voice is hoarse but steady. No one told me. I felt it. A ripple moves through the crowd. Felt it. Dangerous words in a city that thrives on omens. The magistrate frowns. And what, exactly, did you feel? Varro hesitates. His eyes sweep the crowd and land on you. Again, for just a heartbeat. You fight the urge to step back. He doesn't speak your name, doesn't betray you, but the weight of that look presses like a hand on your chest. The water breathes. He says finally. It listens. And sometimes it speaks back. A laughter erupts, harsh and mocking. A woman near you spits on the ground. The magistrate slams his hand down. Silence! Varro is forced to his knees. 2 soldiers grip his arms, while a third approaches with iron tongs, heated until they glow faintly red. The crowd surges forward, hungry to see. Your stomach twists. This is how Rome finds truth? Someone near you mutters approvingly. The iron hisses as it presses against Varro's skin. He doesn't scream, not at first. Just clenches his jaw, eyes burning with some mixture of pain and defiance. The smell of seared flesh curls into the air, sour and metallic. Finally the cry breaks from him, raw, jagged, torn from his throat. The crowd roars, not with pity but satisfaction. Rome is cruel like that. Who else? The magistrate demands. Who else has whispered against the baths? Varro gasps, sweat dripping into the dust. His voice is barely audible. The baths whisper themselves, more laughter, more disgust. But you don't laugh. Because you remember the old man last night. You remember the strange certainty in his eyes, when he told you the baths are not what they seem. The iron hisses again. Another scream tears the air, and you know, deep down, that this won't end with Varro. The iron is lifted, steaming, and the smell clings to your throat long after the sound of his cries fade. Varro slumps forward, trembling, his body sagging against the hands that hold him. He's not dead, not yet. But Rome doesn't need him dead, it needs him broken. The magistrate waves a hand, dismissing him as though swatting away a fly. Take him, lock him beneath the baths. If he loves their whispers so much, let him hear them forever. The crowd cheers. That's what terrifies you most. That this cruelty isn't hidden, isn't done in secret shadows. It's entertainment. Children laugh, vendors shout, people clap. Rome swallows pain and spits it out a spectacle. The soldiers drag Varro away, his heels carving 2 dark lines in the dust. His head lolls, but even so, he looks back. Finds you again. His lips move just once, and though no sound carries, you're certain you know the word. Listen. The crowd begins to scatter, voices rising into a chorus of gossip that spreads like wildfire. Whispers of curses, ghosts, plots, omens. Some mock, some believe, all repeat. And every repetition makes the story larger than it was before. You stand rooted to the spot. The air feels heavier now, the heat pressing harder. Rome has many prisons, but being buried alive beneath the baths, that feels like something else. Something ancient. You know you should walk away. Blend into the dispersing crowd, pretend none of this ever touched you. But Varro's word gnaws at you. Listen. To what? To who? To the water? To the city itself? And then, like an answer, you hear it, not loud, not clear. But as the soldiers drag him past the edge of the forum, Past the chatter, you catch a low hum, faint but steady. Almost like a voice carried on the steam of yesterday, echoing now in broad daylight. You blink, shake your head, it's gone. But no, it's not gone, it's waiting. The baths are waiting. And whether you want to or not, you know you'll follow. The iron is lifted, steaming, and the smell clings to your throat long after the sound of his cries fade. Varro slumps forward, trembling, his body sagging against the hands that hold him. He's not dead. Not yet. But Rome doesn't need him dead. It needs him broken. The magistrate raises a hand. The lion pelt draped across his shoulders shifting in the sunlight, its dried mane brushing against his cheek like a trophy. Around him, soldiers stand in their wolfskins, the grey fur hanging ragged over armor still glinting with polish. One carries the striped pelt of a boar, stretched so taut it almost seems alive again, a reminder of violence harnessed and worn like second skin. The magistrate waves lazily, as if bored by the screams. Take him. Lock him beneath the baths. If he loves their whispers so much, let him hear them forever. The crowd roars its approval. And now you notice, their cloaks too. Not fine wool, but rough hides, fox tails stitched crudely onto cloaks, goat hair dangling from hoods. The forum looks less like a gathering of citizens, and more like a pack of predators in human shape, beasts who've learned to cheer while one of their own is devoured. The soldiers drag Varro away, his heels carving two dark lines in the dust. His head lolls, but even so, he looks back, finds you again. His lips move just once, and though no sound carries, you're certain you know the word. Listen. And as the crowd breaks apart, fur brushing against fur, pelts swaying in the hot wind, you can't shake the feeling that this city doesn't just wear animals, it becomes them. The iron is lifted, steaming, and the smell clings to your throat long after the sound of his cries fade. Varro slumps forward, trembling, his body sagging against the hands that hold him. He's not dead, not yet. But Rome doesn't need him dead, it needs him broken. The magistrate waves a hand, dismissing him as though swatting away a fly. Take him. Lock him beneath the baths. If he loves their whispers so much, let him hear them forever. The crowd cheers. That's what terrifies you most, that this cruelty isn't hidden, isn't done in secret shadows. It's entertainment. Children laugh, vendors shout, people clap. Rome swallows pain and spits it out as spectacle. The soldiers drag Varro away, his heels carving two dark lines in the dust. His head lolls, but even so, he looks back, finds you again. His lips move just once, and though no sound carries, you're certain you know the word. Listen. The crowd begins to scatter, voices rising into a chorus of gossip that spreads like wildfire. Whispers of curses, ghosts, plots, omens. Some mock, some believe, all repeat. And every repetition makes the story larger than it was before. You stand rooted to the spot. The air feels heavier now, the heat pressing harder. Rome has many prisons, but being buried alive beneath the baths, that feels like something else. Something ancient. You know you should walk away, blend into the dispersing crowd, pretend none of this ever touched you. But Varro's word gnaws at you. Listen. To what? To who? To the water? To the city itself? And then, like an answer, you hear it, not loud, not clear. But as the soldiers drag him past the edge of the forum, past the chatter, you catch a low hum, faint but steady. Almost like a voice carried on the steam of yesterday, echoing now in broad daylight. You blink. Shake your head, it's gone. But no, it's not gone. It's waiting. The baths are waiting. And whether you want to or not, you know you'll follow. They drag him toward the baths, and you follow. You tell yourself it's curiosity, but in truth it's something deeper, something older. The same thing that makes people gather at a fire, even when the flames burn too hot. You can't help it. Rome has you by the throat now. The streets ripple with heat. The stones beneath your sandals could cook bread, and the air tastes of dust and char. Vendors still shout their wares, but their cries feel thin after the spectacle you've just witnessed, as though ordinary life is straining to pretend it hasn't seen what you've seen. Rome does that often, blood on one corner, figs on the next. Varro's body is half dragged, half carried by two soldiers who don't bother to slow their pace. His feet scrape the paving stones, leaving smears of dirt, sweat, and something darker. You keep to the edge of the crowd, trying to look like another Gawker, though inside your stomach twists. When you reach the looming bulk of the baths, the air shifts. The walls seem to exhale heat. The great arches yawn above, decorated with frescoes and reliefs that once might have inspired awe. Now they leer, gods carved in stone, who have seen too many centuries of sacrifice to be surprised anymore. The soldiers lead him not through the main doors, where daylight pours in and citizens chatter, but to a smaller arch at the side, low, shadowed, half forgotten. One of them kicks it open, and a wave of stench rolls out: smoke, sweat, piss, scorched meat. It clings to your tongue like grease. You hesitate. This is no place for citizens. These are the bowels of the baths, where slaves stoke the fires of the Hippocaust, crawling through narrow brick tunnels to feed flames that keep marble floors warm for senators' feet. Most Romans above never think of them. Few would dare step below. But you follow. Because the baths, it seems, are not finished with you. The tunnel swallows you. Light dies behind you, replaced by a pulsing red glow that breathes from the furnaces. The ceiling presses low. Smoke scratches your eyes, making them water. You cough, and the sound echoes too far, as if the chamber has more space than your eyes admit. The slaves appear first as shadows, bent backs. Thin arms pushing carts of wood through smoke, so thick it paints their skin with soot. Their eyes flicker up as the soldiers drag Varro past, and in those eyes you see something stranger than pity, not shock, not fear, recognition. As though they've seen this before, too many times, and know how it ends. The soldiers throw him down onto a stone bench near the wall. His head lolls, lips cracked, eyes half closed. One of them spits at his feet. Let him rot. The gods can sort the rest. The other laughs and reaches for a chain bolted into the wall. The clink of iron is sharp in the smoke, thick air. They shackle his wrists, then his ankles, each click biting with finality. When they're done, he hangs like a puppet with its strings slack, breathing in shallow rattles. You stand a little too close. One soldier notices. What are you staring at, rat? His hand twitches toward the hilt of his gladius. Your mouth goes dry. You mutter something about being lost, about looking for the palæstra above. The soldier snorts, smoke curling from his nostrils. He doesn't believe you, but he doesn't care enough to test it. Not when the heat is this thick, not when the job's already done. With a final kick toward Varro's side, they turn and vanish back into the tunnel, laughter fading with their footsteps. Silence falls, or something like it, because here, silence isn't empty. It breathes. The crackle of fires, the wheeze of bellows, the scrape of wood, all form a rhythm. Beneath it, faint but steady, is something else. A murmur, too soft to be words, too constant to be chants. It seeps through the bricks, through the steam, through the bones of the place. You glance at Varro. His head tilts back, mouth trembling, his eyes open a fraction, and though his lips barely move, you hear him. Do you hear it? You want to say no, to shake your head, walk away, pretend you're just another curious Roman who stumbled too far into the wrong corridor. But the truth curdles in your chest. You do hear it. The baths are speaking, not loud, not clear, but like the hum of a city that never sleeps, like 100 voices layered and layered until they become something else. Whispers that slip between breaths, skimming the edge of your hearing. You swallow hard, step back. The slaves watch you, smoke, grey eyes unblinking. One of them, an older man with ribs sharp as knives, mutters under his breath. Not Latin, something older, harsher, words that scrape like stone. He glances at Varro, then at you, then spits into the fire. The sparks leap higher than they should. The smoke coils toward you like a hand. And in that instant, you understand something terrible. The baths do not care if you came here to wash. They do not care if you are guilty or innocent. They take, they always have. And once you have stepped beneath their floors, they never forget your face. You stumble back toward the archway, lungs screaming for clean air. Behind you, Varro's voice rasps again, almost too soft to catch. Listen. This time, the word doesn't sound like a warning, it sounds like a command. And against every instinct you have, you do. You stop. You breathe. And in the space between the crackle of flames, you hear it, a single word, carried on steam, soaked in stone, whispered in a language you shouldn't understand, but somehow do. Your own name. The moment you hear it, your name, you freeze. There's no air left to breathe, but somehow the smoke has hooked into your lungs, forcing it down like wine you never chose to drink. You think, perhaps, You imagined it. That the furnace heat is cooking your brain, that exhaustion is weaving hallucinations into the suit. But then you hear it again. Not louder, never louder, but clearer. A syllable drawn out, tender as a lover's whisper, yet sharp enough to flay skin. Your name slides across the chamber, touches the back of your neck, and you turn before you realize you've moved. Varro is staring at you now. The chains clink softly with his ragged breath. His eyes, moments ago dull with defeat, glitter as if the fire itself has crawled behind them. You can't tell if he's calling you, or if something is calling through him. You take one step toward him, just one. The floor beneath you is hot enough to sting your sandals, but you don't notice until too late. The slaves glance up, then immediately back to their work, as though watching too closely would draw fire to them as well. They know better. You don't. Varro's lips move. His voice is dry stone grinding against stone. They remember? Ooh. The word rasps out of you before you mean it. It feels wrong to speak here. Every syllable falls like a pebble into a well with no bottom. The walls, he says, his head tilting back, chains rattling softly. The water. The fire. They take everything. Skin. Breath. Secrets. His throat bobs. Even names. You don't want to believe him, but the smoke presses closer. Warm fingers sliding into your hair, into your ears. The glow from the furnace flickers unnaturally, a heartbeat stuttering against brick. The whispering swells, not in volume but in number. More voices now. You can't pick one from the other. They rise like steam. You press your hand to the wall to steady yourself. The brick is hot, too hot, but behind the burn you feel something else. A vibration. A thrum. The wall is not still. It hums like a beast sleeping under thin stone. You rip your hand back. Your palm is red, blistered at the edges. Varro watches you with the gaze of a man who has seen too much and has no mercy left. You touch them. The smoke curls into your burned palm like a kiss. You can't take this. Your chest is crushing inward. You stumble for the exit arch, half blind with tears and smoke, half ready to throw yourself out into the burning streets above. Anything is better than this. Anything is better than the walls whispering your name. But then, a hand seizes your ankle. You yelp and nearly fall, clawing for balance. You look down. One of the slaves. The old man with the knife-sharp ribs, his fingers black with soot, clutch your leg. His eyes bore into yours, not pleading, not warning, commanding. Don't run, he croaks. His Latin is thick, his accent jagged. They will follow. The grip tightens until it hurts. What are they? You gasp. His lips peel back from his teeth. Rom. And then he lets go, as if he's burned himself on you. He turns back to the fire and stokes it violently, as though pretending nothing happened. Varro laughs. Not loud, not joyful. A low, breaking thing. It rattles through the chamber like broken chains. No, you hear. You should leave. Every part of you screams to leave. But curiosity has its claws in you deeper than fear. Because some part of you, the part that has always wanted to see what others turn away from, leans closer. What do they want? You whisper. Varro's smile is a cut across his cracked lips. His chains scrape the wall as he straightens, as though he were being pulled upright by something above. They want you to listen. The furnace belches. Sparks burst into the air like fireflies, swirling in patterns too deliberate to be random. For a moment, they shape themselves into lines, like writing. But the smoke eats them before you can read. The whispers thrum louder. You catch scraps of syllables, blood, stone, breath, none are complete. None are yours. But all of them want you. You move closer without realizing it, step by step, until Varro's chains rattle from your nearness. His eyes reflect the flames, two molten coins staring into yours. Closer, he whispers. And you obey. The heat is unbearable now, pressing against your skin, until you think it will slow off. The stink of scorched wood and sweat makes your stomach churn. But worse is the sound, the whispers filling your ears until there is no room left for thought. You lean down. His lips brush your ear as he speaks. They are hungry. The smoke surges. The floor beneath you trembles. And the whispers all at once stop. The silence slams into you harder than sound. It is absolute, empty. And in that emptiness a single voice rises. It doesn't whisper this time. It speaks. Stay. The word crawls into your bones like iron chains dropped into your marrow. Your knees buckle. You hit the floor, breath punched from your lungs. The slaves don't look. They don't even twitch. As though they've seen this before, and know better than to interfere. Varro tilts his head, listening. His smile widens until it shows too much gum. They've chosen, he rasps. And though you don't understand what that means yet, some small, horrified part of you knows he isn't wrong. The chamber exhales, and you swear the smoke itself sighs in relief. Varro's chains slacken as though whatever force was pulling him taut has released him. But you are not released. The voice still coils in your ribs, heavy, dragging. Stay. You stagger to your feet. Your legs feel wrong, heavy as if someone poured molten lead into the bone. The burned palm throbs. For one wild moment you consider tearing free of the chamber, scrambling up into daylight, gasping the filth of Rome's streets just to prove you're still breathing. But your feet don't carry you toward the arch. They carry you down. A narrow crawlspace yawns open beside the furnace, no higher than your waist, and black as pitch inside. You hadn't noticed it before. No one had. But now it gapes like a wound in the bricks, and the smoke leans toward it, sucked down as though by breath from the earth. Varro chuckles, chains clinking. It wants you. You shake your head, your throat raw. I'm not. But you are. You know you are. One of the slaves shuffles past, carrying a fresh armload of timber. His bare feet slap the hot floor. He glances at you just once, his gaze empty, resigned. Then, without a word, he bends low and crawls into the opening, disappearing on hands and knees. You hear him shuffling forward, hear the wood scrape, hear him cough until the tunnel swallows the sound. And you realize there are more in there. Many more. Stoking the fire from beneath, feeding the beast from its belly. The voice in your ribs tightens its grip. Stay. You don't remember dropping to your knees, but suddenly the furnace floor scalds through your trousers. Your palms slap brick, blistering against it. The crawl space breathes hot air into your face like the breath of a fevered animal. You look back once, hoping someone will stop you, but the slaves keep working. Varro only smiles, and then you crawl inside. The tunnel swallows light at once. The furnace glow fades behind you until it's only a flicker, then nothing. Your palms slide on soot. The ceiling scrapes your back. The air burns your throat like you're swallowing knives. You keep moving, because the only thing worse than crawling forward is turning back. The deeper you go, the stranger the sound becomes. The whispers no longer come from one direction. They are everywhere, in front of you, behind, seeping from the brick itself. Sometimes they overlap, tangled and incomprehensible. Sometimes they fall into rhythm, like a chant. Blood, breath, stone. Blood, breath, stone. Your knees scream against the grit. The heat builds until you're soaked in sweat, clothes plastered to your skin. Every inhale tastes like ash. Then, movement. Ahead, you freeze. A shape stirs in the dark, a hunched body. At first you think it's another slave, but no. This one doesn't move right. It doesn't crawl. It crouches, waiting. Its eyes catch what little light there is and glow faintly, like embers buried deep in coal. You can't breathe. You can't think. The thing tilts its head, the way a dog does when it hears a sound you cannot. The tunnel shudders. Dust shakes down. And then, without sound, it retreats into the dark. Your hands tremble so badly you almost collapse in the crawl space. You're halfway through turning back when you hear them again. The slaves. Coughing, shuffling, stoking wood into some hidden furnace. They sound so close, as if you could reach them. And the voice inside you insists. A little sharper now, stay, so you keep crawling. The tunnel curves. Your shoulder scrapes rough brick. You emerge into a low chamber, lit faintly by a thin slit of flame above. 3 slaves crouch here, their faces black with soot, eyes dull and watery from smoke. They don't look at you. They don't ask who you are. They only work. One drags wood forward. One feeds it into a small vent. One wipes his face, coughs blood, and continues. You should say something. But the silence between them is too heavy, too practiced. You realize they have given up words. Perhaps words are useless down here. Perhaps words belong to the walls now. The vent flares with fresh fire. For an instant, the chamber glows. And in that glow you see the marks. Scratched deep into the brick. Claw marks. Names. Thousands of names layered on top of one another, until no brick is clean. You move closer despite yourself. Your hand traces letters gouged into soot, black stone. Latin, Greek, even languages you don't recognize. Some are neat, carved with tools. Others frantic, jagged, as though scraped with nails until they broke. Your chest tightens. The burned palm aches. One name leaps out. Not carved like the rest, fresh. Still raw. Letters scratched by bleeding fingers. Your name. The moment your eyes fix on it, the whispers fall silent. The slaves pause. Even the fire seems to dim. And then, from behind you, in the tunnel you just crawled, a sound. Not a cough, not chains. Something dragging. You turn, heart hammering, but the tunnel yawns empty. Blacker than before. Too black. The slaves resume their work as if nothing happened. But you know something has. Because when you look back at the wall, the name is gone. The suit is in your teeth now. You grind it every time you clench your jaw. Taste grit and copper. The chamber shrinks behind you, the coughing slaves dwindling into background noise until even that dissolves. The crawl space presses in again, narrower this time, as if the bricks are slowly collapsing inward. The silence is unbearable. You want the whispers back. Anything but this hollow quiet. And then, crack, your palm lands on something not brick. Something brittle, splintering. You pull back and the shape crumbles beneath your touch, flaking into powder. You don't want to look, but you do. Bone. The tunnel floor is littered with them. Half-burned, blackened, snapped in strange angles. Ribs, vertebrae, finger bones. You crawl forward faster now, knees crunching on the remains of people who clearly never made it out. The smoke thickens until your head swims. Your vision swims too, but not from the heat, because suddenly, you're not alone. A figure crouches just ahead, its back to you. You think it's a man, but its posture is wrong. Bent double, limbs too long. Its shoulders twitch, spasming as though something beneath the skin struggles to get free. You freeze, every muscle screaming to retreat. Then it turns its head. The face is half burned away, flesh like melted wax, one eye gone. But the other, bright, feverish, focused entirely on you. And when it speaks, the voice is not ragged or broken. It's the same voice that's been inside your chest. Stay. You lurch backward, smacking your head against the tunnel ceiling, dust cascading down. The thing only laughs, the sound muffled by the tight crawl space, then skitters away on all fours deeper into the dark, bones crunching under its hands. You don't follow, but the air pushes you, literally pushes. A breath of heat surges from behind, shoving you forward like the entire furnace has exhaled into the tunnel. And you crawl, choking, eyes watering, too afraid to stop. The tunnel spits you into another chamber, bigger than the last. The heat here is unbearable, searing your skin even through sweat, soaked cloth. A vent glows red in the center, wide enough to drop a man into. You don't want to think about where it leads. Around the vent sit 5 men. Or what's left of them. They're still alive, still breathing, but their faces are so blackened with soot they look carved from coal. They sit cross-legged, back straight, hands clasped, not stoking wood. Not moving at all, praying. You realize it when one mutters, his cracked lips whispering rhythmically. The others follow, low and monotonous. A chant without melody. You don't recognize the words, they're Latin, but twisted, old, broken, muttered as if the language itself is coughing blood. You edge closer. They don't react. Their eyes are closed, sunk deep in sockets. Then one opens his mouth wider, not in prayer, in scream. Except no sound comes out. Only smoke. It pours from his throat like he's a chimney, roiling upward and curling against the low ceiling. The others open their mouths too, and soon the chamber fills with smoke that is not fire's breath but theirs. And in the curling black, faces. Hundreds. Mouths open, eyes rolled back, screaming in silence. You reel, stumble back, your boot crunching bone. The 5 men chant louder, the smoke thickens. The faces press closer until they brush against your skin like damp hands. One whispers directly into your ear, clearer than all the rest. You were called. Your burned palm burns hotter, as if freshly branded. You glance down and see the flesh blistering again, new cracks opening in the old wound. The pain is so sharp you cry out. The chant stops. All 5 men snap their heads toward you, eyes wide, white against the suit unblinking. And in unison, they say, perfectly clear, stay. The vent roars. The chamber floor shakes. You're thrown to your knees, palms scraping bone and suit. You stare into the vent against your will, pulled as if by gravity itself. Something moves inside. Not fire, not coal. Something huge writhing, a shadow against the glow. Something alive. And for one moment, as the air burns your lungs and your vision sparks white, the Roman baths are not heated by wood. Not truly. They are fed. The floor rattles again. The vents roar, rising until it is indistinguishable from the sound of 100 men screaming at once. You drop to your knees, partly from the vibration, partly because standing no longer feels possible in this choking chamber. The 5 men still sit cross-legged, still blackened by soot, but their bodies no longer seem human. Their skin stretches too tightly, their ribs poke out like broken beams of a collapsing roof, and their mouths gape wide as the smoke pours out of them, feeding the vent below. And then it comes. The glow surges bright red, then white, hot, and something heaves upward against the iron grating that covers the shaft. At first it looks like muscle, wet, coiling, pulsating like a living furnace. Then the muscle shifts and splits, revealing an eye. Not an eye of fire, not metaphor. An actual eye, vast, rimmed in cracked veins. Its iris the same molten gold as the molten stones beneath it. The slaves chant louder. Their voices scrape against the walls like nails dragged on bronze. You stumble backward, heart battering your ribs, because now you understand the baths were never just warmed by furnaces. The furnaces are only a disguise. The Romans are feeding something alive beneath the city. The creature shifts again, and the grating bows upward, as if it's only straw. A claw the size of your arm bursts through, curved and blackened like metal fresh from a forge. The chamber shakes with the impact. Bones scatter across the floor like dice. One of the slaves rises to his feet. His eyes roll back, his lips peel away from his teeth, and he lurches forward. Not toward you, but toward the vent. Without hesitation, he flings himself in. There is a sound like meat slapping against hot iron, a hiss of steam, and then silence. The others resume their chant, louder now, as if the sacrifice has only whetted the appetite of the thing below. And you know what's worse? The smell. You expected burning flesh, but instead it's sweet, sickeningly sweet, like roasted honey mixed with rot. It clings to your tongue, seeps into your nose, forces you to swallow against nausea. You gag and crawl backward, trying to retreat into the tunnel, but the other 4 slaves all snap their heads toward you at once. Stay. Their voices overlap, perfect in unison, too smooth to be natural. The word isn't suggestion anymore, it's command. And for a terrifying heartbeat, you do want to stay. You want to kneel, clasp your hands, and let this thing beneath Rome decide what to do with you. But then your burned palm throbs again. White, hot pain cuts through the fog in your skull. The skin splits, fresh blood drips onto the floor, sizzling where it lands. The creature reacts. The vast golden eye swings toward you, fixing on the blood. The chamber goes still. Every chant stops. Every slave freezes. Even the smoke pauses, curling in the air without moving. And in that terrible silence, you understand. You've been marked since the moment you touched the bath's water. The burn wasn't an accident. It was an invitation. The thing beneath Rome wants you. It moves again, pressing harder against the grate, the stone floor around the vent cracking in jagged lines. Another claw forces through, scrabbling for purchase, dragging more of its bulk upward. The 5 men drop to their knees, arms raised in reverence. They're chanting a mindless drone. You scramble back into the tunnel. You don't look back, you can't. The smoke follows, revving after you like a living thing, carrying faces that whisper your name. Your elbows scrape brick, your knees shred against bone and stone. But you push, push, push. Behind you, the chamber erupts. The sound is indescribable, part earthquake, part scream, part roar of fire breaking free of stone. The air blasts forward, carrying soot, ash, and a smell of burning sweetness so strong it makes your stomach twist. You keep crawling until your arms ache, until your vision swims, until the faint glow of another chamber appears ahead. You collapse into it, gasping for air, coughing until black flecks spray from your throat. This chamber is smaller, quieter, but not empty. A single figure waits inside, not a slave, not one of the soot-blackened worshippers. This one stands tall, robed in white edged with crimson hair, oiled, face clean. A Roman magistrate. His gold seal ring glints in the firelight. He smiles as though you've just entered a formal reception, not fled a furnace god clawing its way into the world. You've seen it, then, he says calmly. His voice is rich, practiced, the kind of voice that gives orders and expects obedience. Good. Not all initiates survive the crawl. You try to answer, but the words catch in your throat. He doesn't wait. It is older than Rome. He continues, his eyes glowing faintly in the dim. Older than Latium. Older than the hills we built on. It was here before us, and it will be here after us. We give it heat, it gives us power. We give it bodies, it gives us Rome. He steps closer. His perfume cuts through the reek of smoke. Sweet, musky, almost comforting. And now, he says, you give it yourself. The walls tremble again, the roar echoing closer. The magistrate extends his hand, smiling like a priest offering communion. You stagger back, pulse hammering, mind screaming. The tunnel behind is gone, choked with smoke and red glow. The only way left is forward, toward him, toward whatever waits in the heart of the baths. And you realize, Rome does not worship its gods in temples alone. The true altar lies here, underfoot, where water and blood and fire all meet. The baths are not a place of cleansing, they are a mouth. And it is still hungry. You take a step back. The magistrate takes a step forward. His sandals make no sound against the ash, slick stone, which is somehow worse than if they had. It's like he isn't even walking, just sliding nearer, smiling as though this whole thing is a pleasant conversation at the forum. Behind him, the tunnel bends out of sight, lit by a faint, pulsing glow that you already know is not torchlight. The roar from the furnace mouth is still echoing faintly down the stones, but the magistrate doesn't seem disturbed by it at all. He's calm, polished, his every movement practiced like a man who's rehearsed this moment 1,000 times before. You've been chosen, he says softly. Few are. Do you understand what an honor this is? Chosen. The word lands like a stone in your chest. You think of the burn on your hand, the moment your skin split open, and the thing beneath Rome turned its golden eye toward you. You didn't choose, you didn't volunteer, but the magistrate makes it sound inevitable, like you'd been marked the second you entered the baths. He extends his hand again, gold ring glinting. Waiting. You don't move. The magistrate sighs, not annoyed, not angry, but indulgent, like a father explaining something to a stubborn child. You saw it, didn't you? The eye, the claw. Most cannot even look upon it without madness. And yet here you are whole, shaking, yes, but whole. You are fit. And that means you belong. Belong. Another word that tastes wrong. Belong to what? To Rome. To him. To the thing clawing beneath the city. Your throat burns with smoke. Your skin itches with dried sweat. You want to ask him, why the baths? Why build temples above something that isn't a god, but a beast? But before you can speak, he turns, beckoning you forward with a single elegant flick of his wrist. Come, he says. It is time you see the rest. You hesitate, then glance back. The tunnel you crawled through is gone, collapsed, filled with smoke and stone. There's no way back. The only choice left is forward. So you follow. The magistrate leads you down a twisting path, narrow and uneven. The deeper you go, the hotter it becomes, sweat dripping from your chin, soaking your tunic until it clings to your skin. The walls sweat too, stone slick with condensation, the air heavy with steam, and that faintly sweet stench. And then you hear it, voices. Not chanting this time, but laughter. Real laughter. The tunnel opens into a cavern wider than any you've seen so far. And here, impossibly, is a feast. Long wooden tables stretch from wall to wall, laden with platters of roasted meat, bowls of figs and olives, amphorae of wine spilling dark liquid into bronze cups. Torches blaze from iron sconces, but their light flickers strange, throwing shadows that stretch too long, bend at odd angles. Dozens of Romans recline on couches around the tables. Senators in white togas embroidered with purple. Soldiers in polished armor, helmets resting on their knees. Even women, draped in silk, their hair gleaming with oil. Jewelry catching the torchlight. They laugh, they drink, they tear meat from the bone with their teeth. The room is alive with the sounds of indulgence. But the smell, oh gods, the smell. Underneath the roast and wine lies that same sweetness, cloying and wrong. The smell of the vent. The magistrate spreads his arms wide, as though presenting you to the gathering. Another initiate, he declares. His voice carries across the chamber, silencing the laughter in an instant. Dozens of eyes turn toward you, some curious, some hungry, none kind. One of the senators rises, wiping grace from his lips with the back of his hand. His face is broad, heavy with power, his toga stained with spilled wine. The baths claim another, he rumbles. Fortunate creature. Creature. Not man. He strides forward, cups your chin in his hand, turning your head side to side like a horse at market. His fingers dig into your jaw. Strong enough? He says, then looks back to the others. It will do. The others murmur agreement. You feel your stomach drop. It will do for what? The magistrate releases a small chuckle. Patience. You will learn soon. He guides you to one of the couches, gesturing for you to sit. You lower yourself cautiously, the cushions damp from sweat and wine. A slave appears immediately with a jug of watered wine, pouring into a cup and pressing it into your hand. You don't drink. Around you, the feast resumes. Meat tears, cups clink, laughter rises again. But you notice the slaves. There are dozens of them too, moving silently among the tables. Unlike the soot-blackened ones in the furnace chamber, these wear white tunics, clean and neat. They carry trays, refill cups, fetch platters of food, and every single one has the same burned mark on their palm that you do. Your throat tightens. The magistrate notices your gaze. They are touched as well, he says. But not all who are touched become chosen. Some serve. Some are consumed. He shrugs lightly. Each finds their place. Consumed. You grip the cup tighter, knuckles white. The senator who inspected you earlier raises his cup high, sloshing wine down his arm. To Rome, he bellows. To the flame beneath us, that makes us strong. The others roar their approval, lifting their own cups. They drink deeply. Wine drips from their chins, staining their togas. The women laugh, their eyes too bright, their lips too red. And under it all, the roar of the furnace pulses. You sit stiff, every nerve screaming. You want to run, but where? You want to fight, but against whom? They are senators, generals, priests, Rome itself. And yet all of them are in league with the thing beneath. The magistrate leans close, his breath warm against your ear. You should eat. The night is long, and before dawn you will stand at the altar. Altar. The word twists in your gut. But before you can ask what he means, a sound interrupts. A deep, resonant strike, like a drum beaten from inside the stone. The laughter stops again. Every head turns toward the far end of the chamber, where a massive bronze door stands set into the rock. It shudders once, twice, then swings open with a groan that shakes the air. And beyond it, darkness. The magistrate stands, claps his hands once. The slaves stop serving. The senators and soldiers rise as one. The women gather their cloaks. Without a word, the entire crowd turns toward the bronze door and begins filing through, solemn now, every trace of laughter gone. The magistrate touches your shoulder. Come, he says again. It is time. Your legs move before your mind agrees. You follow the tide of Romans into the dark. And as you cross the threshold, the heat surges greater than before. The roar becomes deafening. The sweetness clogs your throat. The baths are leading you deeper still. And whatever waits in the heart of this place is not meant to be seen by mortals. The bronze door closes behind you with a final, echoing clang that reverberates through your bones. The sound doesn't fade. It lingers, humming inside your chest like an unending note struck on a massive drum. The air is heavier here, if such a thing is possible. Breathing feels like swallowing hot oil. The passage beyond the door slopes downward, steep and narrow. The Romans ahead carry torches, but the flames sputter as though choking. Still, the procession moves with perfect order. No stumbling, no hesitation. They have done this before, many times. You stumble once, catching yourself on the wall. Your palm presses against the slick stone. Heat pulses beneath the surface, as though you've touched the skin of some massive beast, its blood boiling beneath. The burn, mark on your hand stings sharply, glowing faintly in the torchlight. No one notices. Or if they do, they pretend not to. The passage opens at last into a cavern vast enough to swallow the Colosseum. You stand on a ledge overlooking it, the Romans spreading out across stone platforms that spiral downward in great terraces. At the very bottom, half shrouded in steam, is the source of everything. The vent. It isn't a simple crack this time, not like what you saw earlier. This is a gaping wound in the earth, a jagged maw that exhales fire. Great plumes of flame lick upward, illuminating the cavern in pulses of orange and gold. Heat slams into your face, forcing tears to your eyes. The Romans descend in orderly lines toward the vent, chanting now though softly at first. Their voices rise in waves, words lost in the roar, but rhythm clear, a heartbeat, a summoning. The magistrate remains at your side. He gestures broadly at the sight. Behold, he says, as though unveiling a gift, the true heart of Rome. Not marble, not senate, not legion. This, you want to argue, Rome is law, conquest, aqueducts, roads. Rome is order. But as the cavern pulses with fire, you realize none of that exists without this. The flame beneath, the vent, the beast. The procession circles the vent, forming rings like ripples in water. Slaves appear again, white tunics, burn marks glowing faintly. They carry bowls of grain, baskets of fruit, amphorae of wine. They place them at the vent's edge. The heat incinerates the offerings instantly, smoke curling upward. The Romans cheer. Then the chanting shifts. Louder, sharper. Your stomach knots. You recognize the rhythm, but not the words. They aren't Latin. They're older. The sound scratches at your mind, like claws dragging across slate. And then, movement. The vent stirs. A claw, vast and blackened, rises through the fire. It curls around the stone edge, molten rock dripping from its talons. The Romans erupt in frenzied cries, throwing themselves to the ground. You stand frozen. Another claw emerges. Then a horned head, scales glistening, eyes glowing gold like molten coins. The beast pulls itself upward, only partway. Its massive chest heaving with the force of a bellows. Its body is too vast to leave the vent entirely. But its presence fills the cavern all the same. The air vibrates with its breath. The magistrate kneels, pressing his forehead to the stone. Dominus, he whispers, Lord. The senators follow suit, generals, soldiers, women. Every Roman throws themselves prostrate before the beast. Except you. The creature's golden eyes flick toward you, pinning you in place. Heat scorches your skin, though its gaze alone is enough. Your burn mark sears as though branded anew. You grit your teeth, biting back a scream. The magistrate glances at you, smiling faintly even with his forehead pressed to the ground. It sees you, he murmurs. You don't feel accepted. You don't feel accepted. You feel consumed. The chanting rises again. Slaves step forward now, not with bowls of fruit, but with knives. They bare their arms, slash wrists and throats, spilling blood into bowls. The crimson liquid is flung toward the vent, sizzling as it strikes the stone. The beast lowers its head, tongue lashing out like a serpent's, lapping at the blood. The crowd howls with joy. You stagger back a step, bile rising in your throat. The Romans' faces are wild with ecstasy, eyes gleaming with reflected firelight. They aren't horrified. They are exultant. The magistrate rises to his feet. Come, he says, grasping your shoulder. Your turn. Or your knees lock. No. The word slips out hoarse dry. The magistrate chuckles softly. Not to die. Not yet. To offer. He presses something into your hand. A dagger, short, bronze hilt slick with sweat. The flame takes blood. Always blood. But the beast prefers the blood of the touched. The chosen. He nudges you forward, toward the vent. The beast lowers its head again, closer, nostrils flaring. The heat from its breath nearly knocks you backward. Its golden eyes bore into yours unblinking. Waiting. The Romans chant louder, pounding their fists on the stone in rhythm. The sound rattles your teeth. You clutch the dagger, hand trembling. You look at the slaves, the ones bleeding themselves for this thing. Their eyes are glassy, resigned, as if this is all they've ever known. You look at the senators, their lips curled in bliss. You look at the magistrate, smiling patiently, as though this is inevitable. The beast huffs, a blast of heat that singes the hair on your arms. It wants blood. Your knees buckle. You raise the dagger, but not toward yourself. Toward the magistrate. Gasps ripple through the crowd. The chanting falters. The magistrate's smile doesn't fade, but his eyes sharpen. You misunderstand, he says softly. The beast roars. The cavern shakes. Stones rain down from the ceiling. Slaves scream, dropping bowls. Senators clutch each other. The vent flares, flames leaping higher, licking the ledges. The magistrate grips your wrist with impossible strength, forcing the dagger downward, but not into himself. Into your arm. The blade slices your flesh, blood spilling hot down your skin. The beast's tongue lashes out, catching the droplets midair. It moans. A low, guttural rumble that reverberates through the cavern. Pleasure. The crowd erupts again, chanting even louder than before. The magistrate releases your wrist, pats your shoulder. See, he says, voice calm even as the cavern quakes. It has tasted you. It will not forget. The beast withdraws slightly, sinking lower into the vent, satisfied for now. The flames subside. The chanting softens. One by one, the Romans fall silent. The magistrate turns you to face the crowd. Dozens of eyes burn into you, jealous, reverent, fearful. It is chosen. The magistrate announces. It belongs. The words echo through the chamber. Belongs, the devouring heart envelops you. Not violently, not cruelly, gently, impossibly, as though the city itself is breathing you into its rhythm. The shadows wrap around your limbs, your soul, your awareness. Ember eyes blink, faces of the absorbed gaze at you. The magistrate inclines his head, approving, calm, eternal. You feel the fusion, the joining, the consumption that is not death, but transcendence. You are aware of every pulse of the city, every shadow, every scream and laugh, every forgotten face and every heartbeat yet to come. You understand, finally, the brutal, beautiful inevitability of Rome. And then, from the depths of the devouring heart, a whisper, faint but unmistakable, snakes into your mind. Welcome to eternity. The plaza blurs. The fissures seal. The shadows collapse into form. The city exhales, satisfied, eternal, insatiable, and you are part of it. For the first time, the streets are silent. The fountains still. The market vendors frozen mid-gesture. And in that silence, you hear it, the heartbeat. Not yours, not theirs, but Rome's. Eternal. Relentless. Unyielding. Hungry. And you are its pulse. The city exhales around you, a slow, deliberate breath that shakes the cobblestones beneath your feet. Every pulse, every shadow, every whispered secret and stolen breath converges into a rhythm older than memory, deeper than fear. What you once called yourself, your thoughts, your hesitations, your fragile independence, dissolves, absorbed and transformed into something far greater, far darker. Rome is no longer just stone, water, and flame. It is hunger, it is memory, it is eternity, and now you are part of it. You feel the lives of countless citizens, patrons, and bathers intertwining with your own pulse. Faces flicker in every reflection, in every ripple of water, in every shadow that stretches just slightly too long. Their mouths open, their eyes glow, their whispers thread into the rhythm of your heartbeat. You are aware of truths you were never meant to know, the sacrifices, the indulgences, the secrets consumed and preserved in the city's infinite appetite. And yet, strangely, you understand. The brutal beauty of it unfolds before you, life consumed to preserve life, fear folded into rhythm, mortality woven into eternity. Every sensation is amplified, every heartbeat a drum, every breath a note in the city's endless song. The magistrate's eyes meet yours, calm, approving, immortal. He does not need to speak. The city has already spoken through every stone, every drop of water, every flicker of shadow. You feel the pulse of Rome coursing through your veins, synchronizing with your own. You are no longer merely present. You are necessary. You are a single note in its endless, insatiable symphony, inseparable from the rhythm of the city itself. Outside, the streets continue, vibrant, oblivious, eternal in their hunger. But beneath every stone, in every whisper of water, in every shadow that twists too long, it remembers you. The city carries you in its memory, folding you into the dance of fire and stone, water and shadow, consumption and preservation. You are no longer just a witness. You are the pulse. You are part of its eternity. And then, in the quiet between heartbeats, a final realization strikes. Both terrifying and exquisite. Rome devours. Rome remembers. And now so do you.